Hi, this is Michele Molitor, your executive confidence coach and Rapid Rewire expert with Nectar Consulting. Today, what we're going to be talking about is how you can take back control from Amy, your amygdala, that pesky little almond in your brain, and reclaim your confidence to stand powerfully in who you are and what you have to offer the world. We're also going to be talking about some other ways that you can do that, some tools and techniques that you can put into place to help you do that starting today, immediately, right now, if you're listening. So keep listening and go check it out. Stay tuned for more.
Congratulations! You are tuned into Dov Baron's Leadership and Loyalty Show, the #1 podcast for Fortune 500 executives and those who are dedicated to creating a quantum leap in leadership. Your host, Dov Baron, is the founder of FullMontyLeadership.com. He's an executive mentor to leaders like you, a contributing writer for Entrepreneur Magazine, CEO World, and he's been featured on CNN, Fox, CBS, and many other notable sites. Dov Baron is an international business speaker who was named by Inc. magazine as one of the top 100 leadership speakers to hire. Now, over to Dov Baron.
Welcome, dear friends, fans, and fellow aficionados of leadership excellence. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Dov Baron's Leadership and Loyalty Tips, part of the Full Monty interview series. I'm your host, Dov Baron, founder of Full Monty Leadership, and I'm here to assist you tapping into your deep greatness so that you can reach that next level of clarity, focus, purpose, and profit in your business, in your life, and your leadership impact. Today, we're going to be taking an insider look at discovering and using your confidence superpowers for good. Remember, you can chat about this episode or any past episodes inside of our Facebook community page. Just go to Facebook and look for Dov Baron's Leadership and Loyalty Podcast. There you can chat about this episode or any past episode. If you're a new listener, new viewer, thank you for joining us. Strap yourself in. We're about to go full Monty. Remember, you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you tune into podcasts. And even on SoundCloud. You can also, we always need your help in staying relevant, so please get yourself over to iTunes, rate, review, and subscribe to the show. You can find us on traditional radio stations across the United States every Monday and every Thursday. We're all the way from Georgia to Colorado, everywhere you can find us. Look for us on Roku TV as well, because there's over 100,000 subscribers on there. And if you're a regular listener, a big thank you to you for making us the #1 podcast globally for Fortune 500 listeners, with a potential reach of 2.5 to 4 million listeners for every show. We're honored and grateful to be cited by Inc. magazine as the #1 podcast to make you a better leader. You can also catch us on Google Home and Alexa by simply saying, play Dov Baron podcast. Again, thank you for sharing the show with everyone you know. All right, let's strip it down and dive right in. As a leader, whether you're a CEO, C-suite leader, sales leader, or a leader in any capacity, you know that we've spoken about imposter syndrome before and how rampant it is at high levels for executives. But is there a way to rapidly rewire your subconscious mind and go from feeling like an imposter to having confidence as a superpower, particularly if you're a woman? Our guest today is Michele Molitor. She is the founder and CEO of Nectar Consulting. Michele works with executives and entrepreneurs, bringing over 25 years of experience, intuitive insights, strategic business savvy to your success. Her unique rapid rewire approach is a culmination of years of study of the realms of emotional intelligence, neuroscience, organizational psychology, Rapid Transformational Therapy to help catalyze and shift your thinking, eliminate mental and emotional blocks, and rapidly rewire your brain for greater confidence and success, enhancing your capacity as a leader to build high-performing teams and increase, of course, your bottom line. Michele Molitor is a nationally recognized speaker, certified executive coach, Rapid Transformational Therapy practitioner. She is the co-author of Breakthrough Healing, and her articles have appeared on CNN, Self-Growth, Life Hack, and Mogul Mom. She speaks at various leadership conferences nationally, and she is an executive coach and rapid rewire expert. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Michele Molitor. Absolutely. Good to have you on. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much, Dove. It's great to be here with you.
It's a pleasure. Thanks. Now, your new book, the book that you're co-author of, is Breakthrough Healing. I believe it's a series of interviews with 6 healers from different modalities. Of course, you're one of those. And there's 2 things I want to ask you about there. One is that the proceeds from the sales of the book are donated to St. Jude's Hospital. So let's just talk about that first. How did that come about? Why St. Jude's, and why is, we don't like a couple extra quid, so why are you giving it away?
Well, my publisher, Jane Tabachnik, kids are near and dear to her heart, and she reached out to each of us as the authors and said, hey, can we donate the proceeds to this worthy cause? And we're like, sure. So it's all to help a good thing spread the love all around the world, if you will, and help others in need. Fabulous. We all have broke parts in different ways, shapes, and forms, right?
Absolutely. So the other thing is breakthrough healing, not exactly a subject for a leadership show. Tell us why we should listen, why our listeners, why our viewers should pay attention when it seems like, it talks about, oh God, it's just going out of my head now. Some of the other modalities like acupuncture and the other modalities that are used in the book. So why would a leadership person be listening to somebody who's part of that kind of a book?
Sure. No, that's a great question, because I think as leaders, Dev, we all have those places within us that create fear, large or small, right? And those fears can very quickly and easily manifest into physical manifestations of pain and suffering, whether that's, chronic migraines or stress or lower back pain or ulcers or, God forbid, cancer or heart attacks, etc. Because our emotions, they flood our bodies, and if they're not expressed, they go and they get stuck in places. And over time, repeatedly, that creates a breakdown in our immune system and our health and well-being. And so this book addresses 6 different alternative modalities for helping you be your very best all of the time. And it doesn't involve big pharma, right?
Now, one of the interesting things about it, though, is that, it would seem like your particular modalities, your particular approach is particularly useful to people who are high achievers, people who are the A-type personalities. And we talked about that over 70% of high achievers struggle with imposter syndrome, feeling like they're going to get found out. In your research, do you see this as evenly distributed between the genders? Or do you believe that women struggle with it more or maybe less than men do?
In my research and talking with executive women from all around the globe in various different levels of, the executive suite, managerial to government entities, I find that it's more predominantly in women. Men are programmed from an early age to lead with confidence and that I can do it attitude, whereas women always tend to hold back and won't agree to taking a higher level position unless they know that they can do it, right? So there's a difference there in how we approach and how we think about our career and how we elevate ourselves. So I work with both men and women, but
Sure.
I predominantly work with more women because of that fact.
Do you think that I'm not saying it's not true, I'm just wondering, do you think it's true, or do you think men are just better at bullshitting? Women are just more open, more vulnerable, more willing to say, listen, I'm not sure if I'm ready for this, whereas men, will say, oh, I'm ready for it. But, internally there's the imposter syndrome, and they're much less likely to come forward and go, I need some help with this.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, actually. Egos are a very powerful thing, right? Particularly in men, particularly when you're in a leadership position. You have to look good and you have to have it all together. And God forbid your colleagues think that you were biting your nails, right? Or not sleeping at night. So.
Yeah. So how does it, you talked about, we're big fans of women's leadership on this show. And again, I want to remind you, dear listener, the hashtag he for she, capital H, small e, number 4, capital S, H-E, he for she, men who are supporting women in leadership and how we want women to be, we want men to mentor women into those positions, and we want women to take more of that on. So this is one of the important reasons we're doing this, is because we want to support women in going through that place of self-doubt that is, as you very well put, Michele, socially conditioned, and we want to move that out of the way and have women embrace their leadership powers. And you do this specifically through, you have a range of modalities, but what you call rapid rewiring. So tell us, what is rapid rewiring? Because I don't think most people will grasp what that is until you explain it.
Sure. So I've been an executive coach for over 17 years now, and that primarily helps people at a conscious level, right? It's a positive psychology take on talk therapy, essentially. Right. And about 2 years ago, I was introduced to the work of Marissa Peer. She's a world-renowned therapist, and she's over her 30 plus years of being a therapist, she's developed the modality Rapid Transformational Therapy, which is a combination of neuro-linguistic programming, cognitive behavioral therapy, and hypnosis, right? And so that really gets at the subconscious level. So what I've done, I've become certified in Marissa's work, and I've combined the two modalities together. So I start with a rapid transformational therapy session, or an RTT session, which allows me to go deep to help get at the subconscious blocks that hold people back, that create both the emotional, mental, and physical challenge that they're dealing with. And then I follow that up with coaching over a 30-day period to then help them externally process what the shifts that are creating, and then put new goals and strategies into place. So where previously in my coaching, it would have been a 6-month engagement, I can now create positive change for folks in 30 to 90 days. So we're literally rewiring things at a neural pathway level in their brains.
So, of course, I get that, but because of who I am and what I do, but I don't know that most people, maybe, I don't mean to insult anybody, but I think that most people, when you and I talk about neuroscience, we talk about neural pathways, we talk about neuro-linguistic programming and all these kinds of things, including hypnotherapy techniques and cognitive behavioral, you and I can go on about that forever and leave everybody else out of the conversation, which would be very nice for us and boring as all hell for everybody else. Anyway, so let's sort of boil that down a bit. Let's unpack that a little bit, because for most people, why do I need to get underneath the conscious? Why do I need to look underneath the hood? Many people have the belief, this is who I am. That's actually the language they'll even use. This is who I am. I make the best of who I am. Why do we need to get underneath the hood?
Now, that's a great question. And it starts with, if something feels not right in your world, if you're unhappy, if you've got chronic pain, you've got depression, anxiety, things that are holding you back from living a really happy and fulfilled life, that's often when people come to me. I've tried to get this out of my way to change this aspect of myself. I can't get at it. Please help me. And so by using these two modalities together, I'm able to help them get at the memories in their subconscious, because your subconscious remembers everything that's ever happened to you, right? And our conscious, our prefrontal cortex blocks out a lot of that, so we're not overloaded every day walking around in a haze, right? So through this technique, we're able to access those memories, those decision points, essentially, as to why they decided to instill this fear, this behavior, this protective mechanism for themselves in order to move through the world safely, right? There's that part of our brain called the amygdala, which is our fight or flight mechanism, right? That has us freeze or run the other direction. I like to call her Amy. Amy's just here to keep you safe, right?
Amy, that's good. I like it. It's short for amygdala. I like it.
Amy's
That
your
little, I call it the almond.
The almond, yes.
Inside the brain, right?
Size. But Amy just really wants to keep you safe. That's actually her sole purpose, right? Is to keep you alive and on the planet to procreate. And so anywhere along your path and in growing up in your life, if some event happened to you, you made a decision that said, oh my gosh, I can't ever do that again. It's not safe. Amy catalogs that very easily in your subconscious. And then anytime anything ever comes close to that, she's like, no, we're not going that. We're not going to do that. And she'll reroute you, right? Mm-hmm. So when we can get at those limiting beliefs, those unconscious behaviors, those blind spots, right? You can move them out of the way, and then you can really move forward powerfully in whatever your, life or career path happens to be. Particularly as a leader, it's pretty handy.
So is it okay if I push that a little bit?
Yeah, please.
Great. So for the person listening, they go, okay, this is in my unconscious mind. We got to get to that part. But, and so they go, okay, yeah, great. All right, so we got to get to that. However, at a deeper level of this, let's push it a little bit further. And at the deeper level of this, as you said, Amy, the amygdala, is something that has been, is something may have happened to you when you were 3 years old, and you may be 53 years old. So for the last 50 years, Amy's been protecting you from anything Amy interprets as being in any way similar to the situation of when you were 3. So it may be entirely different, but it's perceived as similar, i.e. a threat. And so the argument would be, well, are you going to tell me you're going to wipe out 50 years of that neural pathway in my brain in 30 to 90 days? So you can undo a 50-year pathway in 30 to 90 days. Is that really possible?
Yes, it is. I've seen it happen. Here's a great example. A client came to me with chronic migraines, right, that were debilitating. Chronic migraines and anxiety and depression that essentially she went from being a very successful engineer to a stay-at-home mom because there was times that she couldn't get out of bed for days.
Wow.
And so we did our very first RTT session. Where we got to in the regression was a horrible situation. As a 3-year-old, her alcoholic mother had another child and left her, the 3-year-old, in charge of the infant, which wow. You can imagine how stressful that would be. As an adult, it's stressful, let alone sure. For a 3-year-old who can't even reach into the crib, right? And so she became hypervigilant to look after her sibling, and her body, it couldn't handle it. So her mind created the migraines as a way to literally check out, to take a break, sure. to go offline for a while. And that became the well-worn groove in her neural pathways, right?
Absolutely.
Your mind likes what's familiar. So that at a very young age, that's what was familiar to her. So anytime she got stressed, anything that became remotely stressful, she would get a migraine, right? That would knock her out for hours or sometimes days. Mm-hmm. And that continued for many, many years. It subsided for a while. And then when she had her children, it came back, right? So
good trigger, new kids to look after.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so inside of 60 days, we were able to greatly diminish the frequency and the depth of the migraines, and also reduce the amount of her anxiety and her depression. So she was able to get out in the world and function much more effectively. So yes, you can rewire your brain. It's, there's this thing called neuroplasticity.
Neuroplasticity, yeah.
Right? So that allows us to continually reconfigure things. So if you've got a pathway, a familiar way of being that says, oh, when I get stressed, I have a migraine. Well, what we do through this process, not only do we tap into what's the original originating episode that created that mindset, then we go in and we actually create a new series of empowering beliefs and behaviors, right? So as part of the RTT session, I create a customized 25 to 30-minute recording for them that is instilling new behaviors. You're happy, you're peaceful, you're calm, etc. It's all customized to what that particular client's needs are. And then they listen to that recording every day for at least 21 days. I mix in some binaural music, so it helps drop them into a theta brainwave state that's a very super learning state, if you will, very relaxing. And because of that repetition of listening to it over and over and over again in a condensed way, they're building new neural pathways. And so the old pathways tend to break apart, and we build in new pathways that become the new way of being.
Okay, that's cool. So you using this to assist people, particularly women, as we talked about, to become more confident, to overcome a lot of that imposter syndrome, feeling like they're going to get found out sort of thing. But on the other side of that, there are people out there who have crazy levels of confidence and are blissfully ignorant of their inabilities. They actually should be maybe a little less confident. So is the danger of this that, of working and, doing this work, that a person could get overconfident and actually, you know what, you really need to get a bit more skilled?
Well, that's an excellent way to look at it. And I haven't come across that yet, Dove.
We've all met that person who really thinks they know what they're doing, and they're a schmuck. I mean, that's the
I can think of a few people that come to mind.
Oh, because the reason I'm saying that is because one of the things you talk about is that confidence and emotional intelligence are more important than competence. So talk to us about that in the context of leadership.
Sure. Well, it's not only what you know, it's who you know and how you approach any given situation, right? So emotional intelligence is your ability to not only understand your own emotions and manage them effectively, but to read into the emotions of others and communicate effectively from that perspective, from that point, step into their shoes, if you will. And so success is, it's been shown through research that 90% of folks, let me see if I can get my quote right here, 90% of folks who have high EQ, emotional intelligence, are often more successful than folks who have high IQ but low emotional intelligence, because they don't know how to read the signals from the people around them, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, unfortunately, many leaders have been emotionally ignorant. Their emotional intelligence has been low. And you're right, they figured that the hard skills will be enough, and that they're certainly good, but they're not enough. And we know now, absolutely, as you said, the research shows that if you want to be successful, you're going to have to develop emotional intelligence. But I still think there are far too few people who are reading the book and thinking they know what it is. And that's very different than experiencing it. And as you said, changing the neural pathways for yourself, because part of it, I always say that emotional intelligence, first and foremost, starts with you. So don't be looking at, oh yeah, I've learned this technique so I can manage the emotions of my team. Maybe start with you. Maybe start with the fact that you're behaving like a dick and you need to change that, or you're being a control freak and you're micromanaging everybody. Maybe you want to deal with that before you start trying to manage anybody else's, and look at why you might be doing that. And if you don't know why you're doing it, call Michelle and she'll help you. So you talk about using confidence as a superpower for good, an inside-out approach to harness this power of your subconscious mind, reclaim your voice, and rapidly enhance your confidence for success. Tell us more about that.
Well, having been through my own corporate challenges in my former career in web development, my confidence got shattered from some unfortunate circumstance. I essentially got bullied out of my job. And it became a mission, a passion of mine to reclaim my own confidence and figure out, well, what makes me tick, but then how to help other people reclaim theirs, because it's a quiet epidemic, I would say, of people who have lost their confidence or never had it to begin with because of things that were said to them, whether they were as a child or a youth or even as an adult, from those people around them, that chips away at your confidence. And so when you can realize that, oh, I can change my mind about how I perceive myself and amplify my confidence, that creates a whole different energy for you, how you stand more powerfully, more confidently in who you are and the expertise that you have to share. And that creates a really powerful ripple effect. I just worked with a woman about a month ago, actually, who was dealing with this very issue, right? She had a high level position and she had a great boss, and then her boss left, and then she got another boss who didn't get along, and they just head butted, right? And it really, really knocked her confidence out of her. And so through this process, going through the RTT and the coaching, she was able to really, oh, right, I am all of that in a bag of chips, right? She was able to remind herself of her skills and her talent and expertise, and was literally within 30 days was able to move into a different group within her organization and get a pay raise and be bumped up to a new principal level. And just, you know, smiling from ear to ear, watching her really own it. I'm like, yeah, that's the way to do it, you know?
That's cool. One of the things you talked about there was getting bullied out of a position in web development, your previous career. Talk to us about the turnaround of that, because, you know, we all go through experiences, or most of us at least go through an experience that is devastating, that, you know, helps us to question who we are, question our abilities, question our position, question our authority, question all kinds of things that we previously might have thought was rock solid. What was the turning point for you to go from, you know, like you were successful and then you were bullied out of your position? It's easy to go down that road in a very dark place. And I think probably for most people, that's actually an important path, is to go to the dark place. But there's a point where you got to turn around and come back, which you've clearly done. Many people don't. So somebody listening, watching this show might be going, yeah, those bastards did that to me. And, you know, they're having a pity party, which I understand. I'm not judging them for it, but they're feeling like a victim, but they don't know how to turn that bus around. What was the turning point for you?
It was for me, it was a cumulative effect, right? At that point, I discovered coaching to help me figure out what to do next. I had no idea what coaching even was at the time. And in the process of being coached, I was asked some very key questions like, what are my core values? I was like, wow, that's a great question. Never thought about that before. Let me give that a thought for a minute, right? Yeah. And in looking at that more closely, I was like, oh, well, no wonder this didn't work for me. I was out of alignment with what's really important to me. So it began with creating that alignment between who I am, the work that I'm doing, and my values that are really, really important to me and core to me and how I move through the world, right? And then it was, you know, learning about myself at a deeper level. You know, I'll admit it, I'm a personal development junkie, right? Can I have another training, please? And always stuffing my brain with new ways of understanding how people work, how we tick, what makes us think, what makes us do the things that we do, and finding new and better and positive ways to enhance myself, but then enhance my work as a coach. After that, I went on to get trained and certified as a coach and started my own business. I've been doing it ever since. And just love the ability to always absorb new information. So as you said earlier, it really starts with you. You have to be willing to look inside yourself and go, okay, why did that happen? Who was I being that created that outcome? And what do I want, desire to shift within myself so I can show up in a bigger way, a better way, to be the leader that I know that I can be, that I want to be, and then have a powerful, positive impact on the lives of others. So it all starts here, right?
Always.
And moves from there.
So what was something that you did, and in fairness, probably thought was really good? What was something that you did that actually got in the way, that blocked you from your success? Because I think that this is one of the key questions is, if you are an A-type personality, if you're driven, if you're successful, if you're that kind of personality, you're not doing stuff because you think it's bad. You're doing stuff because you think it's good. You're doing stuff because you think this is going to probably work. And it's only with hindsight you realize, God, that was dumb, right? I know I did lots of dumbass things for years. So what was something that you did that you thought was good that actually hindered you from getting to your success?
Sure. I got stuck in shame, right? So I grew up in a very entrepreneurial family, and was the only of 3 children who didn't go work in the family business. I'll do it all by myself. I'll figure it out, right? And so I moved across the country to the San Francisco Bay Area, and I had this new highfalutin job, and then I got laid off, and I was, dumbstruck and awestruck, and the physical, emotional impact of that took me years to get over, quite frankly. And it wasn't until that I looked the fear, the shame, the worry of all of that in the eye and went, oh, okay, I did what I did. I got what I got. I made some mistakes, but I've learned from them now. And I've been able to take that story, that episode in my life, and turn it around as a learning and give it back to people as a gift, right? And so it wasn't until I was able to really speak to what happened to me publicly. Like, yeah, this happened. It sucked. And I felt really shitty at the time. And I was able to give that to people as a learning lesson, that those walls, those barricades came down and things started to shift pretty rapidly from there. It was really fascinating, actually. Like, oh, you said something earlier, and it made me smile, because very, very early on in one of my initial coach training programs, I was told, Michele, you're so much more approachable when you're vulnerable. I was like, okay, yeah, sure, I'll be vulnerable, right? And I had to be told that message several times over several years before I got it. And it's not about, pouring your heart out all over the place, but it's about speaking your truth, right? This is what happened, and this is what I learned from it, and this is how I've moved forward from it in a really powerful way.
Yeah, as I wrote about in my last book, Fiercely Loyal, vulnerability is the most powerful thing you have in leadership, but vulnerability is not emotional vomit. It needs discernment.
That's a great way to put it.
If you think vulnerability is about going and emotionally vomiting on every member of your team, that's not what it is. That doesn't actually endear anybody to you. It makes you want to run away. So it's really getting the discernment piece, which you only get through your own emotional intelligence and developing on yourself and working on yourself. So we're back in that same loop. Tell us about this is interesting. Tell us about Wonder Women Unite.
Wonder Women Unite. Yes. So it's a
sounds like a good he for she.
Yes, it's a group that I created about 2.5 years ago. I was interesting enough, I was looking for different places to speak, right? And Lean In, Sheryl Sandberg's book Lean In, she created Lean In Circles, which are women's support groups all over the world. And there happens to be the largest one here in the Bay Area, the Palo Alto Lean In Group. And I was looking into that and doing some research, and you might experience this, Dove. I get them, I call them downloads. I just get like, bing, ideas that pop in and go, oh, okay, right. So I got a download that said, start your own group.
Right.
Oh, okay. And then I'm like, well, what should I call it? Wonder Woman Unite. Okay. So that's what I did. So I created this online forum, Lean In Circle, called Wonder Woman Unite. I have women who have joined it literally from every corner of the planet. And we have a live call like this once a month on the third Friday of every month at 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 12:30 Eastern time. And it's essentially giving ideas and information to women to empower them to stand more powerfully in their confidence and find their voice. And I have guests from all walks of life and different corners of different organizations and industries to share their wisdom and their insights with women from around the world too, because there's plenty to share. So it's super fun for me. And yeah, I'm looking to, it's going to be up on iTunes next year here pretty soon. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun and a joy for me to do. And it's just a way to share some of the wisdom I've been given over the years and share it with other people.
Is it just for women?
It is. It is just for women.
Exclusively for women leaders. That's
yes.
fabulous.
Yes, although I will admit it was really funny. On one of the calls, we had a raving Wonder Woman movie fan show up who that's all he wanted to talk about. I was like, that's so great that you're here and we're not here to talk about the movie, but thank you. He kept turning on the Wonder Woman Unite theme song. It was hilarious.
Okay.
Big fan.
So, you know, you and I just talked, we talked quite a bit about this, and you and I talked about it in our previous call. You know, one of the things that I see in leaders who are exemplary is that every leader I've ever met who's at the top of their game understands there is no there. We as leaders, particularly conscious leaders, are committed to our growth. And as successful as you are, what is the one thing that you're still working on within yourself?
That's an awesome question.
Because
yeah,
it's true, right? We're all growing, we're all learning, you know, and I certainly am confronted with things on a regular basis that I go, yeah, shit, got to go back and look at that one and deal with that again, or upgrade my skills in this, so, you know, look at that in a deeper level. What is it for you?
You know, it's a constant looking inward, noticing the triggers, the fears that are coming up in different ways, shapes, and forms, right? As we get pushed to the edges of our comfort zone, like, oh, that feels a little wobbly. Let me look at that, right? And leadership has all of its finer nuances. And so whether I'm working one-on-one with people or leading a team on a different, on a coaching and consulting engagement, it's making sure that I'm showing up as the best, most authentic leader that I can be, right? And having people around me who can say, hey, Michelle, there's a little thing on your nose. You might want to look at that, right? And taking the time to do that. So just making sure that I'm an effective communicator as best as I can be. I'm tuned in to the folks on my team and checking in with them to help them be their very best. So it's a constant, always evolving kind of thing.
I'm gonna nail you to the wall on this one. That's a bit vague. So what specifically are you looking at? Nice try. And there's your wiggle room. It's gone.
You're good, Dove. You're good.
Well, I do this for a living, so that was a nice vague answer. Thank you very much. Could you be a little more vague? So what, you know, because we've all got something. We're all working on something. You know, we've all got, you know, for me, it's organization. Like, I'm shit at organization. I've gotten better over the years, but I'm still pretty crap, and it's something I have to come back to all the time. And I know it's psychological. It's got nothing to do with my ability, and I know where it comes from because I know, and I look at that, and I set up with my coach, and I go, okay, yeah, I sabotage the organizational shit again, and fortunately now I have a team that helps me, but now I'm actually flying somebody in from Dallas in January to come and sit with me, to sit at my desk next to me, to actually spend 2 full days with me to show me simple patterns of organization that I can't screw with. So that's an example of like that specific.
All right, that's a great example. And in a similar vein, actually, working down in the details, I'm really good with big picture ideas. I can create ideas all day, every day, campaigns, images, all sorts of things for folks. That's why I was a business coach for so many years. I'm like, here's some great ideas. Go make something pretty with that, right? But being down in the details of like this big project that I'm working on right now, it does get challenging, and I have to remember, okay, right, I have to keep on track with these things, and I have a great team around me to support me, which has been fantastic, because otherwise balls would drop, and that can't happen, right? In a project this big. So it's making sure that I have my to-do list, and I'm on task, and I'm keeping up with the people on my team to make sure that I'm leading them effectively and not getting in their way either, to enable them to do their job. So finding the balance point of that, and keeping track of all of the balls that are floating in the air right now too.
So would it be fair to say that the thing you're still working on is SOS, shiny object syndrome?
Squirrel.
I'll take that as a yes.
Yes, squirrels are always a challenge for me. Oh, look at that. Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
So in a world where we are often terrified, particularly today with all the nonsense that's going on, in a world where we can often be terrified to offend people by letting them know something we believe, what is your bravest opinion? What's something that is probably not comfortable to generally speak out about, but you have a strong opinion about it?
Oh, we could talk for hours.
I'm sure.
One of the things I'm really passionate about, and I'm frustrated by, of the things that are happening in our country right now, actually gets me. It really, yeah, it does, because I think equality belongs to everyone, and it doesn't matter whether you live on this side of the border or that side of the border. We all deserve to be treated as human beings and respected and seen and heard. And the behaviors that are happening, that are coming from members of our White House, are atrocious and appalling, and I think go against the very thread of what America is about. And it pains me deeply to see it. And I really look forward to the positive changes that are coming, and they can't come soon enough, right? So, yeah,
So I'm going to give you a magic wand. I'm going to allow you to install in everybody's head, not even through rapid rewiring, but just through waving a magic wand and installing in everybody's head one sort of universal belief. What would it be? Or one universal rule, what would it be?
I think it boils down very simply to this, Dove, is to know that you are enough, that you are capable enough, you are smart enough, you are talented enough. And when you believe in yourself, then others will believe in you, and that will have its own positive ripple effect.
That's a beauty. So tell us, Michele, what is it that brings you joy?
Mm. The things that bring me joy, nature, sitting and watching the hummingbirds. I love to paint and draw, so I do that in my spare time. I have a bunch of crazy critters in my house, some cats and a bird, and they're very, very entertaining. And yeah, just the simple things, noticing the beauty that's all around us that we forget to notice. The sun glistening on the dew, on the spider web, on the flower kind of thing.
Yeah. So simple, natural things.
Yeah, reminds us to breathe, to come back to ourselves. We get very distracted and caught up in the busyness of our day, and we forget to pause and take it all in, and then just be here now and enjoy life. That's what we're here to do. And the more we can do that, then the more peace and calm we can bring to the people that we're working with and the projects that we're working on, and that energy gets imbued in those things and moves out into the world in a good way, I believe.
Very cool. Very cool. So I'm going to ask you, what is, I think that, again, A-type personalities, successful people, people who are driven, we all have a certain level of what some people would call discipline. But at the same time, we all have our own guilty pleasures. What's your guilty pleasure?
My guilty pleasure would be Chobani yogurt at 9 o'clock at night.
What is Chobani yogurt? Tell me. Is that like
it's like Greek yogurt, right?
Oh, it's a Greek yogurt. Okay.
It's a Greek yogurt. It's super yummy. I only need a little bit. That and like one piece of chocolate. I don't need a lot. I just need a little bit.
No, it's just enough. Just enough, huh? Yeah.
Exactly.
I understand. So the little that moment. Yeah, I get it. That's fabulous. Thank you. So as we sort of wind up the show and come towards the end, I would really like for you to share with our viewers and our listeners something very practical that they can do, something they can take from what it is you've said today, what it is you've shared with them, that will really let it sort of soak in. And so by having them take an action, preferably right away, certainly next 24 hours, and at the stretch within the next 5 working days, what would be something you'd have them do that would have them really sort of take it in?
Well, I think to notice where their fears are getting the best of them. What's that internal conversation they're having with themselves that's getting them stopped? And notice it and flip it on its head. Like, if I took the opposite of that thought and told myself that instead, what would that create?
Give us an example.
So if a common belief is I'm not talented enough. We'll take that one, right? I'm not talented. Who am I to do that if I'm not talented enough? So we take that and we flip it on its head. I am talented enough. It is up to me to get this done. I am talented enough, and keep telling themselves that, rinse, repeat. I'm good enough. I'm smart enough. I'm talented enough. I can do this. Become their own inner cheerleader. And then watch how that shifts not only their energy, but how they show up, right? Because again, your mind likes repetition. So the more you tell yourself these positive thoughts, then there's no room to tell yourself negative thoughts. Your mind can't hold 2 conflicting beliefs at the same time. So fill your head with good stuff. Pick a theme song, right? What's your theme song? Like Roar by Katy Perry, or Brave, or there's all sorts of ones that
all kinds of great ones.
Right? So find your theme song, play that often, let that lift your spirits and fill your mind with those positive thoughts that empower you versus taking you down the rabbit hole, which don't get you anywhere.
So let's just, I want to just dig a little bit deeper into the practicality of that, because I don't want to have people think it's positive thinking and just, oh, I can, because, people walk around with affirmations like I am wealthy, meanwhile the bank account is empty and so are their pockets. So we don't want to run people off into that path. but we want to bring them back to the practicality of this. So what is the difference between what you've just said and positive thinking?
So the difference is changing the belief, the internal belief, right? You can say, I am wealthy, but you have to have the external to back that up. But if you
Sure.
tell yourself, I am enough, that's an internal conversation, right? That can literally change your biochemistry, right? And so coupled with positive action steps in the direction of where you want to go, right?
Right.
That creates the difference, right? You can tell yourself, I'm enough, I'm talented, I can create my wealth, and I can create my wealth by doing these steps, right?
Right. And I think that's a really important piece, because it's not just a positive thinking, it's a positive action in the direction of.
Absolutely.
And so what I would, just want to compound what Michele has said there, because it's important for you to get, is it's one thing to walk around and say, I'm wealthy, and then, sit down and have a good cry because you have no money. It's a different thing to say, I'm enough, and here's the actions to prove that I'm enough to myself, not to anybody else, but to myself. But you actually have to choose actions. And the practicality of that is that I would say to you is I can't do it. Well, you don't choose anything big. Choose something small. As my mate John says, if you want to get fit, the first thing you have to do is put your runners by the side of the bed so that you'll stumble over them when you go for a pee. And, until eventually you go, I'm actually going to put those on. And then and he says, you can just put them on and walk around the house. But eventually you'll get sick of that, and then you'll go for a walk. And eventually you might end up doing a couple of blocks, whatever it is. But you take the action steps, one small step at a time. And the other piece that I would just give you around the neurolinguistics of it, is that saying I'm enough, the ego, the Amy, may say, no, you're not, you're a bag of shit. That's entirely possible, because that may be the conditioning in your mind. So here's the thing that might help you a little bit, is your mind does not work in statements, it works in questions. So when you say I'm enough, your mind goes, no, you're not. As opposed to, and the mind is reactive, and this is important to know. So if you give it something, it will react. So you present a question, and the question would be, what if I'm enough? So the mind goes, well, you're not. Yeah, but what if I am? Well, you're not. Well, what if I am? And you can go on that cycle forever, and it will push the mind deeper and deeper. And so, well, what if I'm enough? What about me might be enough is the next level of that question. And the mind has to answer, because that's how the mind works. It works in questions. So, well, what if I'm enough? Well, what about me might be enough? Well, I might be enough at this. Good. Now, and you can build on that. So the practicality, as Michele said, is to take those questions and then add to that, well, what can I do? And then take a little step. It doesn't have to be gigantic. It's actually a sabotaging technique, is to choose something too big, because then you don't reach it in 5 seconds and you go, oh, see, I'm a failure, which now has validated and compounded the nonsense inside of your coconut. So you go the other way, which is something just tiny, like I said. Put your shoes beside your bed and go, well, maybe I can get fit. No, I can't. Well, I can put my shoes by the bed. Could I do that? Yeah. Well, what if that's a step towards my fitness? Oh, okay. So it's just like, take what Michelle's saying here and put it into action. This is vitally important. This has been a real pleasure, Michele. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your knowledge and your caring with us. Please tell our listeners, our viewers, where they can find out more about you and all your wonderful resources.
Sure, thanks. It's been a pleasure to be here. They can always find me on my website, nectarconsulting.com, Nectar consulting.com. I've got a boatload of free resources there in the brain candy section. And then you can also, of course, find me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, etc. Yeah, I've got a ton of free stuff to share with you, and would love to have a chat if, you got something you're stuck on and need to get out of your way.
Fabulous. Again, that's nectarconsulting.com. And of course, we will post that in the show notes. Again, Michele, I want to really thank you for being with us. I hope you'll stay with us to the end. It was a pleasure and an honor to have you here.
Thank you so much, Dove. Joy to be here with you.
And again, for you, dear listener, as always, you hear me say it every show, information is worth the hole in the donut. Transformation comes from application. So bloody use it. Don't just listen, okay? Put it in action. And remember, you can chat about this show or any of our past episodes inside of our Facebook community page. Just look for Dove Barron Leadership and Loyalty Podcast, and there you can go chat about this show or any of our previous shows. Remember, the research consistently shows that one of the biggest challenges facing even the most successful companies can be somewhat counterintuitive, in that these fast-growing companies often hit a point where they realize they are spending a fortune attracting, training, and developing talent, only to have them leave at an alarming rate. If you're sick of investing in the training and developing of your talent only to leave before you get your ROI, then come talk to us at fullmontyleadership.com, where we provide you with the essential leadership skills to rekindle and amplify the hidden loyalty assets inside of your organization by tapping into purpose. fullmontyleadership.com, providing you with the concrete soft skills to get you and your organization to the top and keep you there. Why? Well, because you can't outsource authenticity. Also, remember to stop by the Matrix. That's matrix.fullmontyleadership.com. You don't need a triple W. The Matrix, like the movie, .fullmontyleadership.com, and get your authentic leadership matrix self-assessment tool. It's valued at $197 and it's absolutely free to you for being a regular listener. Remember, you can play us on Google Play and on Alexa by simply saying "Play Dove Barron Podcast." Thank you for sharing the show with everyone you know. Until next time, stay curious, my friend. Stay curious about the power of shifting your being by tapping into your subconscious. Because what is actually holding you back is not in your conscious mind. It's that little bugger Amy. I'm Dove Barron. I'm here to assist you tapping into your deep greatness to reach that next level of clarity, focus, purpose, and profit in your business, your life, and your leadership impact. And I am out.